You are listening to the Getting Lucky Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I am your host, Lucky Robert Curtis. I am joined for this special edition of Cage Chat with Mitchell Stuckey.
Hello, guys. How are you?
That's all you got? You're not going to bring the fire?
The fire...
The fire.
Did you see Alistair... Okay, that's old news.
Did he got knocked out?
He got knocked out so awesomely. I'm gonna make that my desktop. I'm gonna make the sound of his jaw being rocked my ringtone.
Yes.
It's awesome.
And then I'm going to tattoo famously his response to it. Arg.
Arg.
Arg. Arg. There's an REM song that makes me think of Alistair Overeem when he got knocked out. Everybody hurts sometimes.
I didn't hurt at all watching it.
Yeah. Today we don't have an event to cover. This weekend we're off. So we figured we'd get together and just talk mixed martial arts in general. Exciting, right?
Woo!
So before we do that, let me just do some quick plugs. Follow me on Twitter, @LuckyRob. Mitchell's on Twitter.
@MitchellBSP. Soon to change, though.
BSP stands for bitch smacking people.
There you go.
WhatCulture.com, they sponsor us. I write for it. Mitchell's going to start writing there. We're on Facebook as well. Look for the Getting Lucky MMA podcast there. And, of course, our dear, dear friends and some man crushes on MMAshare.com. The first thing I want to talk about, we have a recurring segment for our Cage Chats, and that's how the geniuses behind this show are going to fix mixed martial arts. You're on the edge of your seat, aren't you, Mitchell?
I can't wait to talk about it. It is something that we do, and I think that everyone believes we're pretty good at it. We're going to fix... Dana's going to be calling us soon.
Yeah, I said cruiserweight, and the judging sucks. I didn't really have a solution for the judging.
Well, I think that's about where the entire landscape of MMA is right now.
Yes.
They suck, but we don't know what to do.
You know, and Joe Rogan plays this game too, how to fix MMA, but he focuses purely on groin strikes and eye pokes. I almost said groin pokes.
We have a couple shticks on this show. I think Joe Rogan and Kim Winslow are our tipping point. That's what we hit.
Yeah, I'm all about sticking Kim Winslow.
Whoa.
This is how I propose we fix MMA. Allow fighters to hold belts in more than one division.
Is that not allowed?
No, it's not. Dana White is steadfastly against it because he thinks it'll create a backlog of title defenses.
Really?
Yes. I believe in my heart of hearts that Jose Aldo could be the featherweight and lightweight champion.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that, but what did he expect to happen when BJ Penn and GSP fought?
I don't think it was for the title. And he also said that if... I can't remember who it was in particular. It may have been Anderson. If Anderson fought for the light heavyweight title, he would have to abdicate his middleweight belt.
Yeah, I do recall him saying that.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess I had never thought about it, but that's true. Well, I can see Dana's point, though. It would back up two divisions pretty heavily.
All you have to do, there's two divisions in particular that are stacked, like middleweight. I'm not taking that back. Welterweight and lightweight. But all you have to do is make some provisions. If you do not defend the belt within 9 months, someone gets placed as interim, and if you don't defend it within 18 months, you lose the belt, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is put some parameters around there. But in instances where there aren't a lot of contenders, and there's not a lot of depth, like at middleweight, because they keep beating each other and everyone keeps falling back to the pack, a la Bisping, or at light heavyweight, where John Jones is clearly above. I mean, wouldn't you like to see John Jones try to take on Cain Velasquez? Because all of a sudden, fighting Cain Velasquez means he's immortal if he can take 2 belts.
I'd like to see John Jones move up, absolutely.
Yeah, but go back and forth. I think he could do it.
Yeah, I mean, with the fading light heavyweight division, I think he could do it as well. Would he beat Cain Velasquez? Possibly.
I think he'd beat Alistair Overeem.
I'd pay to see that.
How would you fix MMA, Mitchell?
I think that it's going to be a topic we're discussing a lot today. I actually think, though, MMA's already being fixed, and I don't mean they're fixing fights. If you take a look at Bellator's strategy, I think they're, at least in my opinion, in the mainstream of America, they're doing it the right way. They're doing a clear, decisive way to the top, and that's what you have in all professional American sports, which is obviously the audience they're catering to, not leaving the United States with any of their shows. A tournament to get to the top. You have a playoff tournament in every professional sport to get the two best teams to the title, and there's no one going, hey, I'm from a different football or different baseball league, but I'd really like to play you, and that doesn't happen. So,
well, I mean, you could say it does, because the guys that play like in the Spanish League or the Europa League don't get to play NBA teams.
No, that's true. But and that's the same as like Bellator not fighting UFC. But what I mean is, you don't have a guy like from let's say college level, whining and complaining and then getting a shot at a professional team. Like, you don't have the UConn Huskies playing the Chicago Bulls.
That'd be awesome.
What I mean, it would be devastating. But you don't have Frankie Edgar going down to fight in a lower weight. That doesn't happen. That's not going to happen at Bellator. There's a clear-cut way to get to or
better yet, people like Johnny Hendricks don't get screwed.
Right, and maybe that's bad in a way, because you won't always get to see that fight you wish had happened, and maybe the Bellator will come around to eventually, adding in that fight that every fan wants to see. But I think that if they want to succeed and have fans understand it, because it's such a big sport to a new fan to try to comprehend, I think that Bellator's idea is going to attract a lot of new fans.
There is something a bit more pure about what Bellator is doing, in that they're letting the sport handle itself. For instance, the NFL doesn't look at the playoffs and say, wow, Patriots-Ravens not feeling it. I want the Patriots to go a little bit further. They've got a bigger fan base. We'll put the Patriots against Denver instead. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what the UFC does.
Yeah, and I think that would be difficult for, at least I know the people that I speak to here where I live. They're like, I don't really get it. Why is Frankie Edgar fighting Jose Aldo? Who's Jose Aldo? Why? You know what I mean? Like, there's so much to take on to such a big sport for them to go, wait, why is this guy in a different weight class, but he's fighting this guy? Or wait, why is Anderson Silva fighting Stephan Bonner? Isn't Anderson Silva the end-all, be-all fighter? Why is he fighting, like, old, washed up, So,
well, I mean, I can understand that boxing operates in the same way as the UFC. So the questions from your friends are from people that just don't watch combat sports. They watch NFL, NBA,
but
MLB.
Look at where boxing's going.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's fair point.
The model needs to be different. I know Dana White knows all about boxing, and that's where he and this sport is still very similar to boxing with the judging rules and everything like that, the judging criteria.
Yes.
But I think that MMA has got to go in that direction. I look at Bellator's model. I look at the fact that Bellator is now on Spike, and I honestly can see if the UFC doesn't shape it up and get to be a little bit more legit like that. I don't want to see it happen, but I could see Bellator eventually eclipsing them. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon.
We're going to talk about Bellator in just a second. We're going to get back to those guys. But I actually had another idea for how to fix MMA that just popped in my head.
Lay it on me.
What if during the event the fans can vote and they choose which referees have done poorly? Right? So there's like a running poll, like after the Bobby Green fight. Oh my God, Kim Winslow surges into the lead. And then at the end of the show, you can put it on Facebook, you can put it on FX, or you can pin it straight onto the pay-per-view. The two worst referees fight bum-style fights.
I don't think that's going to fix our sport, but I think that would be fantastic, and I think Kim Winslow would win every single fight.
I think she would, because I think she would go like zombie face cannibal, like that dude in Florida with the bath salts. I think she would chew off Dan Miragliotta's face like Hannibal Lecter.
I think just going off bum style, the fact that you call it bum style, from bum fights,
yes,
that would give her an advantage. She knows too much about that.
I'm telling you, man, she has fought for a freaking dime bag in the streets before. I'm telling you.
That's her world.
Let's do some news and notes. I'll give you a news item, and you respond.
Oh, I can't wait.
Josh Barnett has denied, or I should say he has refused the UFC's contract, and there was apparently one little sticking issue. What do you think?
I saw that he did accept it initially, correct?
He showed up on the UFC's website as on their roster of fighters.
Right.
But he denied on Twitter anything official. Like he was sort of dancing like, I am, I'm not, I am, I'm not. But I guess today officially it's broken down.
Yeah, I wanted to see Josh Barnett in there. The fact is they agreed to the guaranteed compensation. They accepted everything that the UFC was, but they came to one point where they couldn't agree. And I think ultimately this is going to hurt the fans. Why would Josh Barnett? What could it be that Josh Barnett wouldn't agree to be in the only promotion that's going to make him the big bucks?
My guess is that he was holding out for the right to wear Dennis Hallman type Speedos in the arena.
Well, you know what? With his blubber hanging over, I'd actually like to see that. I think he's an attractive baby-faced assassin.
He's the War Master, and I think the little War Master wants to be free. Next story, Thiago Tavares at the UFC Brazil card. Busted for steroids. Reaction.
Yeah. He was busted in the fight as well, so you get what you get.
Yep.
Khabib took him out.
He needed a lot more. He needed like the Chinese special gymnast sauce. I mean, if he's going to play around with steroids against Khabib, then Nurmagomedov.
No, he needed horse meat is what he needed.
Yeah, he needed horse semen injected straight into his ear canal. Randy Couture breaks relationships with the UFC and comes on to Spike and Bellator for a 2-year, 2-idea development MMA program. What are your thoughts?
There's a few different ways to look at that. You can look at it from Dana White's way, in which is he's an asshole, and I've always known he was an asshole, and you guys all think he's Captain America and this and that. And that's fine, and I understand that. But the way that I look at it is he is a pioneer for MMA. He has been here growing it. I'm not going to say he started MMA because he didn't, but he, for a time, was the face of the UFC. The UFC is the biggest brand there is. What he's doing is kind of, I guess, paying back to Spike his respect in the fact that they were brave enough to go ahead and throw a reality MMA show in 2005. I mean, think about it. That's 7 or 8 years ago. 8 years ago, they had the ability. They believed in the UFC enough to put a reality show on.
And we charted how well the UFC, on a previous show, we charted how many events they had before. Mm-hmm. And then what the first season of The Ultimate Fighter did. So you're right. Spike took a gamble, and it paid off. Although I do believe Dana White said that they actually had to pay for their airtime. They were doing like a airtime lease, so they were paying for. So it wasn't like Spike saying, "Hey, we're going to put financial resources." The UFC bought the airtime and then put their show up there. I think
either
that's
way, Spike had enough, and that's neither here nor there. I think they still put it. I know that's big, but they still put it on. And Randy Couture is trying to advance continually MMA. Have you heard about the one of the ideas for the shows they're having?
What's that?
They're having 4 different camps. The fighters get to pick the camps they go to, and they also get to pick their opponents. So a fighter can choose to go to Greg Jackson's camp. He can choose to go to Frank Shamrock's camp.
Black Zillions.
If any fighter picks them, they're dooming themselves. But they also get to pick their next opponent in sort of a build your way up idea, and then the ultimate winner of the reality show is thrown into the welterweight Bellator tournament.
I've heard that anyone that picks the Black Zillion camp on this show gets a free bong and a passport to Colombia. Here's what I think. I think Dana White said, Randy Couture is not the guy you think he is. Everyone thinks he's Captain America, but in reality, he's really difficult to deal with. I don't understand how being Captain America means you're nice. Captain America, secretly, the other Avengers say Captain America's kind of a diva. He's kind of a douchebag.
He's kind of full of himself.
Right, and the other thing is you said that Randy Couture didn't start mixed martial arts, but I'll have you know, prior to him being trapped in the iceberg, when he fought against the Nazis in 1940, he was doing that shit. MMA style in Germany. Check, mate, motherfucker.
Blew my mind.
Blew your mind. I just shticked you with a Kim Winslow.
You did.
Last item, Anthony Rumble Johnson jumps up to heavyweight, where he's been fighting his entire career, wink, wink, versus Andre No Chin Arlovsky. Thoughts?
I've been waiting for him to go up to heavyweight. I noticed that when he took out Dan Hardy, he was in super heavyweight class, and that bothered me a little bit. That fight made me so irritated. But I'm just excited to see Andre Arlovsky get to tee off on somebody. I will be bummed out if Anthony gets any type of a brain and decides he's going to wrestle that fight like he did to the striker Dan Hardy. He wins if he wrestles. He loses if he stands.
I like Arlovsky. I do. I feel bad for him that he's got no chin, and how that suddenly, in our fandom, if you don't have a chin, that suddenly makes you a pussy bitch, you know, or something like you're suddenly a loser because you don't have a chin. I mean, I'm telling you, 90% of the people watching this sport have no chin, and there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
The UFC. Go ahead.
I wanted to bring up. I mean, if you want to keep talking about that, we can. Yes. Were you going to go on to? I was going to change the topic.
Go ahead, knock yourself out. Like literally, knock yourself out.
Fuck with my chin.
Yes.
Speaking of chins and glass jaws, Bas Rutten came out describing Overeem's problems in his last fight, and I want to continue to discuss Overeem's.
You have such a boner for this.
So I just wanted to see, have you heard about it? And if you have, what did you think about Bas Rutten coming out and basically filleting? He came out and said that Alistair Overeem's technique was poor, and his technique was poor because of the camp that he decided to go to. He left Golden Glory, where they have phenomenal coaches, phenomenal trainers, to go with the Black Zillions, where he's probably the best fighter there and doesn't really have to train as hard because nobody's testing him. And this leaves him to having worse technique, not protecting himself, and leaving his glass jaw open. How do you respond?
Well, I have to agree, and based off of what Rashad Evans has become ever since leaving Jackson's, he doesn't counterpunch anymore. A guy, our buddy on MMA Share Waftis pointed that out. What I've noticed, this is what I think. I think guys that go to Black Zillions, yes, they are light on technique, and I don't feel like their camp really builds a guy up. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot of dick sucking that goes on over there, and I don't mean like literal dick sucking. I mean
okay.
I think Alistair gets told, and Rashad, and from the stuff I've seen tweeted out by Black Zillion fighters, I think they're like, we are the baddest camp on the planet, people fear us, we are a freaking gang. And I think Alistair came out thinking his opponent would be scared of him because he's Alistair Overeem, and because he's been getting this message of, dude, no one can touch you, you're so freaking awesome, you're the best heavyweight in the world, that makes you the baddest man on the planet. And he was just goofing off like Bigfoot would just lay down for him.
Mm. And that's dangerous for him.
And given his record of being knocked out multiple times by smaller fighters, Alistair does not have a world-class chin.
No, and I think that not only was Bas Rutten calling out Alistair, he was calling out the entire camp. And I think that if you look at their track record, like we've discussed time and again, they're bad. You go there and you lose.
It would be interesting to see what a fighter's record at top-level competition was before they went to the Black Zillions and then after.
I would love if somebody could come up with that information.
Yeah, somebody out there in the interwebs, will you help us do that, please?
I'm sure the percentage of losses to wins following their entrance into the Black Zillions is hilarious.
But I guarantee you, when it comes to bong hits and keg stands, woo! The UFC released their own official rankings. These are a lot like the USA Today rankings for college football. They basically polled a lot of MMA journalists. So as if Mitchell and I were asked to do this, and then synthesized the results and came up with their rankings. They've got all of them on here, except for the females, because honestly, there's 4 women in the UFC. Let's go quickly by each division, starting with the flyweights and go all the way up to heavyweights, and then talk for pound. And if anything jumps out at you that you think is surprising, unfair, or interesting, why don't you point it out? Let's start with the flyweights. Obviously, the champ, Demetrius Johnson, is top, and then the number 1 contender is Benavidez, 2 Dodson, 4 McCall, 3. I'm sorry, 1 Benavidez, 2 Dodson, 3 McCall, 4 John Moraga. What do you think?
I think it's interesting the way that they rank them, in that they put the champion as a non-numbered guy because he's top dog, and then it is, I believe, how you read it, number 1 contender, number 2 contender.
Yes.
I agree with that. I don't know how often they're going to be updated. I like that Sherdog updates theirs every month, especially after events, because if you have Ian McCall still at number 3 after his recent loss, do you agree with that? Like, would you leave him there even though it was to the number 1 contender?
I would, but
Okay.
he's going. My prediction is that he drops down. Luis Gaudino overranked. Ian McCall behind Moraga. We'll see how everyone else shakes up after that. Bantamweight. Dominic Cruz is the champ. Renan Barão, the interim champ, is 1. 2, Michael McDonald. 3, Uriah Faber. 4, Eddie Wineland and Brad Pickett. Your favorite British guy.
Not my favorite British guy, no.
Your favorite British bantamweight.
There you go.
Thank you.
I think looking at this, especially in the bantamweight class, it really makes me realize how thin that division is.
Yeah.
You've got Pickett, who's on he lost his last fight. Wineland looked great, but Faber is ranked 3rd.
Yeah, that's
that to me is, I can't remember the last time Faber won a fight. And Bowles is still in the top 10. When is he? I don't know. I like that Scott Jorgensen's on the list. I think I'd put him higher, but I can't really complain with the top.
Yeah, you see guys like Ivan Minjavar and Scott Jorgensen, you're like, man, should those guys be top 10? And then you start thinking about the bantamweights, you're like, wow, there's really no one else.
Yep. Well, when you look at just the UFC's bantamweights, there's really nobody else. But if you go world, and that's why I don't like the fact that UFC made their own. If you go worldwide, you get a better, clearer picture.
Yeah, and this, we'll get to how legitimate this is, but I think the idea is to rank guys in terms of being a contender, but when we get to welterweight, that goes out the window. Featherweight, Jose Aldo, next up is Chad Mendes, 2, Ricardo Lamas, 3, Korean Zombie, 4, Frankie Edgar, 5, Dennis Seaver.
I did not see Anthony Pettis' name on there.
Title shot, August 3rd. Mark it down.
And why do you rank Chad Mendes above Ricardo Lamas when what is Chad Mendes going to do? Get kneed in the face again?
Korean Zombie, 3rd?
Absolutely.
I think he should be higher.
Well, no, that's what I mean. I think he should be at least in the top 3. I thought you were upset about 3rd. Absolutely, he should be up there. I would have put him. If I were to change it, it'd be Aldo, Lamas, Korean Zombie.
What about Seaver? Seaver's looked like a destroyer.
I still put Seaver behind Edgar.
What about? I think Lamas is way too high.
You think so? I don't know. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him and KZ go at it.
And then Clay Guida at number 10. That is a travesty against all humanity.
Yeah, the fact that you even see Clay Guida's name in any rankings anywhere.
Maybe if this is with the Ultimate Hugging Championship. I know that's a really old joke, but I love it. Lightweight champion Benson Henderson, number 1. Gilbert Melendez, 2. Anthony Pettis, 3. Gray Maynard, 4. Nate Diaz, 5. Jim Miller. What do you think?
I'm going to put Jim Miller above Gray Maynard. Other than that, I agree with it. I am excited to see TJ Grant climb that list, and as well as previously mentioned Habib.
Yeah, Nurmagomedov ranked number 10. I'm sorry, that's going to change very quickly.
Behind Dos Anjos, too.
And Loveson, too. Melendez, he's ranked the number 1 contender, but he is not the second best lightweight in the world. And if you count Jose Aldo as being a lightweight, because he can hold multiple championships like I suggest, Melendez drops down, I think, to 5th.
5th.
Where do you think Eddie Alvarez would come in on this list?
I think he would be behind certainly behind Bendo and Pettis. I could see the way T.J. Grant looked. I could see T.J. Grant working Alvarez.
I think Nate Diaz could too.
I think Nate Diaz could take him out on the game. I think Alvarez would be overzealous. I think you'd have to take Gray Maynard out of the top 5 and throw Alvarez in there somewhere. I mean,
I'm seeing Alvarez in the right around the Rafael Dos Anjos level, personally.
Okay, so you'd keep Cerrone above him?
I think Cerrone's based off of those body shots. I think he's probably. I think I put T.J. Grant over Cerrone.
Okay.
Then I would put Alvarez, Cerrone, Anjos, and I wouldn't rank Lauzon. I dropped Lauzon out of the rankings.
I think I wouldn't rank Lauzon, and that's you're saying if you include Jose Aldo in the lightweight.
No, I'm saying if you include Alvarez. If Jose Aldo's in there, then I would drop Anjos as well.
Well, if you throw Frankie Edgar back into that list, I think Alvarez goes down even further. So,
which is why they should be able to freely fight between divisions and not be such a big deal. Welterweight champion George St. Pierre, number 1 contender Nick Diaz. Oh wait. Oh, my mistake. It's actually Johnny Hendricks. Number 2 contender, Nick Diaz. Oh, wait. My mistake. Carlos Condit. Number 3, Nick Diaz. Then Rory McDonald, then Demian Maia. Why the hell is Nick Diaz getting a title shot? He's not the first, not the second. He's the third. This is crazy.
Why the hell is Nick Diaz, that high on the list? He hasn't fought in a coon's age, and I could see Rory McDonald taking him out. The way Demian Maia looked.
Wow. Yeah.
But you got to go. I guess you got to go off what they've done recently. And again, Nick Diaz hasn't done anything recently. I'm excited to see that fight. I feel bad for Johnny Hendricks though.
Yeah, he got screwed. I think Nick Diaz should be below Rory. I really want to see if he could keep Maia from taking him down.
Yep, I agree. Put him above Maia, below Rory. Right.
Yes. Yeah, and then everyone else I think is pretty good. Although I think Tarek Safedine is overrated.
Overrated, but I got to be honest. I'm happy to see him in the top, I guess, 11. The way that you look at it here.
I want to see him fight more. I like him. I like to see him fight, but I want to see him fight someone other than Nate Marquardt. Middleweight champion Anderson Silva. If they really wanted to do this properly, they would have had champion Anderson Silva, the number 1 blank, number 2 blank, number 3 blank, number 4 Chris Weidman. That's how much of a gap there is. So it goes Chris Weidman, Vitor, Bisping, Okami, Munoz, Hector Lombard, ranked 8th.
Don't agree with that. Don't agree with him. I don't agree with him at all being below Philippou.
And Rockhold and Munoz, right. Are you insane?
Philippou is far too high. Munoz, far too high. Rockhold, I guarantee the first time he fights a UFC fighter, he's going down. Yeah, he's got a fight scheduled, doesn't he?
Rockhold,
yeah.
I can't remember if he does. Listen, middleweight is weak. If Tim Bosch is ranked, I'm sorry, it's weak.
I do like Bosch, though.
I like Bosch, but I'm not going to be emotional about it. And this is Ultimate Fighting Championship, not Ultimate Women Gossip Club. Light heavyweight champion John Jones. Number 1 Dan Henderson. 2 Lyoto Machida, Alexander Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira, Little Nog, Rashad Evans, Shogun, Phil Davis, Ryan Bader, Gegard. Gegard should be higher.
Gegard should be higher, and I think when he gets a fight in the UFC, he will be. It's sad that Lil Nog is ranked above Evans, but after that last fight, I can't argue with it.
I don't know if Evans should be rated until he agrees to leave the Black Zillions.
Yeah, I think I love Hendo. I love him, but he hasn't fought in a while. I don't know if I could consider him still number 1, but I don't know who I would replace.
So it'd be Lyoto? It'd be Lyoto for you?
Yeah, that's the same. I don't know if I would replace him with Lyoto. That division just needs to build itself back up. And it's sad.
They need Daniel Cormier in there pronto.
They do. It's also, and I'm going to just admit this, it's sad to see Forrest Griffin not in a top 10 list. Really.
Well, skill-wise, it's not at all deserved.
No. It's totally deserved. It's just sad.
Yeah. Well, Forrest is the everyman that had his moment in the sun. Now it's time to go back to the factory and work at the machine press. Gegard, would you put him... I'd put him right around 3 or 4. Between Alexander Gustafsson and Glover Teixeira.
I was going to say I'd put him above Glover.
If he can wrestle, I'd put him number 1.
If
he could wrestle.
I'd like to see him fight Dan Henderson. I think he'd light Dan Henderson up on the feet. What I'd really like to see somebody do is get Gegard riled up. Get him pissed off.
Yes.
Because I'd be very afraid. I'd like to see... Let him piss off Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen piss him off. I'd be afraid.
You know, where the hell is Chael Sonnen?
That's right. He's not on any of these lists.
This is crazy talk. He is not anywhere. That's a mistake. That's a mistake by you, UFC. He is in the top 5 in middleweight. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
That's crazy talk. Are you kidding me? Tim Boesch over Chael Sonnen? Are you insane?
And this is one of these things I'm talking about when you are a newer fan and you're like, okay, I'm looking at their rankings that they have. This guy that's fighting the champ isn't even ranked anywhere.
Yeah.
What's the story?
By the way, Chael Sonnen, probably the best tough coach I've ever seen.
He really is. And I hope we're going to get to talk about that here in a little bit, but he really is a great coach.
Finishing up with heavyweight, Cain Velasquez, JDS, Verdum, Cormier, Bigfoot, Mir, Alistair Overeem, Big Nog, Roy Nelson, Stefan Struve, Shane Carwin. Half of these guys have been injured for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I can't complain too much about this list. I'm surprised to see Shane Carwin still on it. It's not surprising to see Struve so low, but when you look at the names above him, I agree.
Do you think Mark Hunt should be above Carwin?
I think Mark Hunt absolutely should be.
And do you think Mir should be above Bigfoot?
I don't think Mir should be in the top 5, no. I think Mir should be far lower.
And if this list has been completely destroyed because Alistair, a non-juiced Alistair, completely crapped his pants, he should clearly be the number 1 contender, followed by JDS Verdum. Cormier shouldn't be on this. He should be on the light heavyweights. And then I probably wouldn't have much of a complaint about this.
No, well, if you go with the fact that Cormier is still a heavyweight, but it's been said that he will not fight Cain and Cain will not fight him.
Yep.
Well, I don't see the point of him staying in there, but
I
can't disagree too much with this list, other than Frank Mir.
Pound for pound, number 1, Anderson Silva. Completely agree.
And that's about it.
Number 2, John Jones. I think he's too high.
I think St. Pierre needs to be above him, and then I could understand it.
I would agree. And then 3 is GSP, 4 is Aldo. I would put it Spider, GSP, Aldo, Jones.
Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree. I mean, I'm not going to say I'd agree, but I wouldn't argue with it.
I think the real controversy comes with the next. So Benson Henderson, I'm okay with that. 6, Cain Velasquez over Dominic Cruz.
No, I can't agree with that.
I don't either. 8, Demetrius Johnson over Frankie Edgar. Frankie is, I think, pound for pound a better fighter, but he's fought guys on this list where Demetrius Johnson has not, so his record isn't as good. So I kind of understand that. 10, Dan Henderson. Crazy talk.
Crazy talk that he's 10 or crazy talk that he's on the list?
Crazy talk that he's on the list.
Who would you take him out and put in?
I think Pettis is pound for pound better than Dan Henderson.
Okay.
Or
you think he's done enough to show that?
Dan Henderson is a 40-year-old guy that is only in the sport because he's got Clubber Lang-like strength. That's it. He doesn't wrestle anymore. He's got no cardio. He just happens to have the ability to touch people and make them go to sleep. That's all he does.
I think that's pound for pound amazing.
Okay, it's pound for pound. But then put Johnny Hendricks on there because he's got more power than Dan Henderson does for his weight class. Johnny Hendricks killed Martin Kampmann. He killed him with a jabbing hook.
It was devastating. I mean, here's the thing about a pound for pound list. When you get past number 4, there's really no reason. Who really cares about the rest of them?
It's really number 1, really. That's the easiest.
Number 1's the easiest one. Everybody should agree. I think the other interesting thing that I did notice about the members of the media that get to choose this is I didn't see Ariel Helwani's name in there. Is he a member?
I don't think so.
I didn't see him.
He may not be allowed because he actually works for the UFC now.
Okay. I didn't see him. I didn't see Ben Folks. I didn't see a number of writers at Junkie.
Is Karen Bryant on here? She is not.
Yeah.
She also carries a microphone at UFC events.
Right. I think it is interesting to see how many foreign to the United States members there are, but you have a guy from Fox 11 on there.
Franklin McNeil should not be on this. He doesn't know anything about the UFC. He doesn't know anything about mixed martial arts. He is a boxing crossover. He was crappy commentator, reporter in boxing, and he jumped on the MMA wagon. And all of his stories, all of his insights are ridiculous. He should be on there.
He's got a badge that says ESPN though, so what can you do?
Good for you then, buddy. Let's talk about The Ultimate Fighter, Season 17, Episode 3. The coolest guy on the show, Uriah Hall. Decapitating folks.
Dude, that was nasty. When I was a doubter when Dana White came out and said it's going to be amazing, it's going to be the worst knockout, blah blah blah. I mean, he's known for bullshitting, known for upping his product, and I thought that's what it was, but I was glued to my TV set and I was like, I couldn't pick my jaw up off the floor.
I jizzed in my pants. Like he did that spinning wheel heel kick, whatever, and
I got to admit, when it came down, when the 10-second thing hit, I was sitting there watching it, and I was ready to just resign to the fact that it was going to be second round.
Yeah, me too.
And you just heard the snap of the shin to the jaw. Oh my goodness!
And when
I guess it was heel to the jaw.
And when that dude was laying there struggling to breathe, and everyone went quiet, I felt bad because I wanted Uriah to be able to really appreciate that moment. And even in the locker room, he was still kind of freaked out, like, man, I just almost killed that white boy.
Right. What really bothered me about it is how much it bothered him. The fact that he immediately was apologized. I've never heard a fighter apologize for knocking the other guy out. But what else can you do in that situation?
But should you apologize if you kill the guy? I would. Yeah. I'm sorry for killing you.
You've got to feel. Do you think that if he had been seriously affected for the rest of his life, noticeably, from that knockout, Sella, I'm talking about, that Uriah Hall might have thought twice about getting in the cage again?
I know for a fact it would have been a factor, because there was a guy, a boxer named Benny something. He was Cuban, and he fought this other Spanish guy, and the other guy kept calling him Metacon, which in Spanish slang is homosexual, but not in a nice way.
Right.
And I think it was Benny Peretz. Got him caught in the corner, pop, something like 20 headshots, unstopped. The referee just let it happen. The guy fell, and Benny was never the same fighter after that because he killed him in the ring. I mean, if you're a human being and you're obviously as conscientious and a nice guy like Uriah is, I think it would completely affect him. This is the guy that came over on the fight to get in the house and was talking with the guy he just beat's parents, saying, your son did really well, he really represented himself well, that kind of super, super nice guy.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see him continue on. It's Dana White said that further on in the season, one of his opponents before they fight has a serious nervous breakdown.
Yeah, like they were saying that he has a string of knockouts and people are afraid to fight him. Awesome!
Yeah, I can't wait to keep watching. And I hope it's the salmon guy. I so hope that.
I hate that guy. He belongs on the Jersey Shore.
Right. He absolutely. I don't know why he thinks he's so good, but I know he's scared. I would be scared now.
I would be too, though. What do you want to talk about?
We've already discussed the rankings. We've already discussed Bellator. What bothers me is the recent string of super fights. Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo, super fight. We were calling it a super fight.
That is a super fight.
Now we're calling Pettis Aldo a super fight.
That is a super fight.
What I want to get, I guess, down is what is a super fight, because I think I read Ben Folk's article.
That is a super fight. Oh, sorry.
I read Ben Folk's article discussing, what is and what is not a super fight, and how we are hyping now 2 fights in a row as super fights against Aldo, when really a super fight before was champion versus champion. So what happens when they have an actual super fight to hype, like Anderson Silva John Jones or Anderson Silva GSP? How are they? They're going to have to come up with a new word to call it.
I've got it. They call it the Megazoid Super Awesome Fight.
I disagree that they're super fights. That these two are super. A super fight would mean to me champion versus champion.
So Benson Henderson versus Jose Aldo, super fight.
That would be a super fight.
What was Dan Henderson, Pride champion versus Rampage, UFC champion, a super fight?
I don't think that had the hype behind it or the. I think it was pretty clear who was going to win that fight when it was signed at that stage of Rampage's career. So no, I don't.
Was Fedor, who I believe was the champion, against a Big Nog who was not the champion, a super fight?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think it is. I think it was.
I think
those
that's
were
the same
clear.
thing.
Like those guys were both on the pound for pound list, and they were easily the best two heavyweights in history.
I think what you've got is especially in this Pettis, Edgar, Aldo triangle, is what you have is amazing fights that you don't need to hype. You don't need to call them super fights, but we're calling them that. They don't need to be called that. What needs to be called that?
Neither does Silva Jones. You don't need to call that. Anyone that follows the sport knows that
no,
the
but
internet
that's going
will
to be
stop working on that day. Al Gore
Right.
will be called out of retirement. We got to fix this shit. The internet just broke.
That's going to be the biggest fight ever.
I think GSP Silva will be a better fight. But that's not here nor there. So you have a problem with super fights. So let me ask you, Edgar Aldo, super fight?
Rethinking it, no, I don't think it was.
Okay. Jose Pettis, super fight?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because keep going. You have something you're trying to get over on me.
Kim Winslow, Dan Murgliata, super fight?
Dream fight.
Whoa. Wouldn't it be awesome if, like, during the fight, someone's titty flops out? Because I'm telling you, Dan Murgliata is probably like a D cup.
I bet he's got that ability to pop his pecs.
Oh, I bet he does.
I think Kim Winslow probably does too.
I think she does too, but her deflated grandma titties will probably flap around like little handbags.
Let me reverse this on you for just a moment.
Reverse it.
Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo, was that a super fight? Why not?
Because Uriah was clearly on the downside of his career, even then.
Okay, but he did, I guess he was in that weight class, correct?
And I think you need to be over a certain weight to be a super fight.
Okay, so do you think that...
Let me ask you a question.
Here we go.
JDS, UFC champion before he fought Kane, if he had gotten to fight Alistair, who is the K1 champ, the Strikeforce champ, I don't know, the Elite XC Dream champ, whatever, would that have been a super fight?
I think that would have been a super fight.
I agree. Every show, we end it by figuring out who is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Obviously, in our opinions, it's Anderson Silva, GSP, or Fedor, although, according to the UFC, John Jones is now a strong contender. With those, and you can include Jones if you want, we'll figure out, point by point, skill by skill, who's best at what, and then we can use that to say who's the best of all time. Who is the best at hula hooping?
I think we should stick with the three that we've got. I don't think we need John Jones in our categories, since we're talking greatest of all time. John Jones still has time to work. But hula hooping. Now, I think what you have to do is you have to figure out who's got control over their body, who's the most rhythmic, who can move and define, get their hips going the way they want. So with that thought, Fedor's out. Then you come down to GSP Anderson. And what's intriguing about such a wonderful question is the way that Anderson dances in the cage compared to the fact that I know GSP goes clubbing probably every day. Now with Rory McDonald.
That guy pulls the wool, dude. I'm just telling you.
Pulls the wool.
As in pubic hair? Female pubic hair? Wool? pulls the wool.
No. I'm reiterating.
He has a lot of sex, is what I'm saying.
Right. I have to say that I think that his clubbing moves are not as good as Anderson Silva's natural talent to hula hoop. I go Anderson Silva.
I would agree with you because I would agree with you on one point. Canadians not known as dancers. No offense, Lee. Brazilians, they have samba. Plus, I'm going to go racial here and say the black man is going to outdance the Arctic polar white man. But did you know that hula hooping has been a type of exercise from as early as the 5th century in ancient Greece? And I believe you can make a direct correlation from pancration and European hula hooping all the way to Sambo in Russia. Fat Boy for the win! The Chuckle Shuffle, Fedor hula hoop champion. He could wear the hula hoop as a belt. That is a victory for me.
And while you were researching that, I was busy with women. So
with GSP.
You think him and Rory go together?
Well, hey, I'm not saying that.
No!
You think they pick up women together? Because I don't know about Rory. He's kind of crazy. I expect him to be like hitting hookers with barbed wire hangers while talking about Phil Collins' studio.
That's what I'm saying. I think they may go together to the club. GSP gets the girl. Rory takes her home and viciously murders her.
Yeah, that's an American Psycho reference, by the way. Just so people
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Returning videotapes.
Yes. He is crazy. And last thing I'll say, then we'll end the show. Rory actually had the audacity to post this. He said, for all those people that created accounts that are pretending to be me, God, get a life. It's creepy. Like, when Rory McDonald says you're creepy, you know the world is about to end. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. That was episode 24, Cage Chat. We'll be back next week for another Cage Chat with English Tom. English Tom will also be back the show after that to help us with the Wembley event. We kind of have to let him do it because it's in England. I am Lucky Rob. Mitchell?
I will see you guys in a number of weeks. English Tom will be taking the reins for a while.
Winter is coming.
The North!
We will get English Tom to sing Misty Mountains Cold from The Hobbit. Until then, we bid you adieu.
You do?